And he admitted that he was lying, and he was using his propaganda machine to do it when he said that we sent millions of dollars to Gaza for condoms. That was a lie.
Why? But do you think that calling Elon Musk a dick is effective messaging?
FEMA money for migrants, that's okay now?
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. Don't put words in my mouth.
So would you stop that? Would you stop that process?
Don't be a dick.
Tulsi Gabbard has now been confirmed the next Director of National Intelligence, in addition to RFK now being confirmed as a new HHS Secretary. Keep watching to see the subcommittee hearing on DOGE go off the rails coming up in this video, but let's start by watching the swearing in of RFK Jr. As always, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button.
20 years I've gotten up every morning on my knees and prayed that God would put me in a position where I can end the childhood chronic disease epidemic in this country. On August 23rd of last year, God sent me President Trump. All right. And he gave me he's now given me, he's kept every promise that he's made to me. He's kept his word in every account and gone way beyond it. I'm so grateful to you, Mr. President. A lot of people told me that I couldn't trust President Trump, that I better get it in writing. And we did a handshake, and everything that he told me he was going to do, he has done. Right.
So the final tally on both confirmations was once again 52 to 48. And the only Republican that voted no, which is no surprise, good old Mitch McConnell, which I always said should have retired 20 years ago. Of course, let's take a look at him as he leaves Capitol Hill in a wheelchair with a boot around his foot.
How are you feeling, Leader McConnell?
So, of course, the question is, why would Mitch McConnell vote no? Now, I'm of the belief that he represents part of a Republican Party that no longer exists. And the new Republican Party, which I think was summed up very nicely here in this clip, is all about the rise of populism.
Yeah, I totally agree. The Republican Party has changed. We're no longer the party of Mitch McConnell and George W. Bush even. I think we are a more populist, working-class party, and I think that it's seen throughout these votes and throughout the influence of Donald Trump.
So that's how MSNBC reacted to the breaking announcement that Tulsi had been confirmed. But of course, CNN has a different take, and I think you'll not be surprised by what they had to say. They believe Mitch McConnell is the only Republican that voted no on Tulsi because he's the only person not afraid of Trump.
Dan, I mean, I think that the bottom line here, too, is, and the concern and the big question going forward is going to be about the relationship that this administration is having with Russia, right? Edward Snowden is a big part of that. That was probably her toughest moment in the hearing. Mm-hmm. But that's what ties all of these questions together, right? And we're just learning, in fact, that's just crossed here at CNN, that Trump says he and Putin had a productive phone call. Both leaders agreed to visit each other's nations, right? This, of course, this was posted on Truth Social. Mm-hmm. This comes in the wake of the release, the hostage exchange that we saw play out late last night. But the things that tie together all of the concerns that, and underscore, I think, Mitch McConnell's concern about Tulsi Gabbard is her view on Russia and the way the United States should be relating to the Russians. And the fact that he was the only one that was willing to vote no on this just shows that he's the only one that's not afraid of Trump right now. Like, Susan Collins may have reasons, right, for saying, okay, she said this thing, I feel better. The real reason is, like, she's got a primary.
Right, and McConnell's already on the exit ramp.
Of course he's on the exit ramp. He's about to retire. He's finished. He should have been finished 20 years ago. I hope if one thing happens during Trump's administration is that they figure a way to pass term limits, because I think it's just pitiful at this point. Now, this is just one of many losses for the Democratic Party this week. Tulsi and RFK being confirmed. It had Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor panicking because he knew what was inevitable, that they were both going to be confirmed. And I just want to play this clip, well, for pure entertainment value, really, but let's take a look at what he had to say.
Objectively, I think most senators would agree there are better choices to lead national intelligence. You know what my guess is? If we had a secret ballot, Gabbard might get 10 votes and 40 against her from the other side. People know. That's why they raise so many questions. But Donald Trump and Elon Musk evidently threatened them, and they're changing their view.
And he pretty much said the same thing before the RFK vote. And now this takes us to the next loss for the Democratic Party. A federal judge just ruled that President Trump does in fact have constitutional authority to freeze or limit certain federal funding. This comes because, remember, he put freezes when it came to funding around the world because there was a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. And now the judge has confirmed that he has the authority to do that.
And then that the previous order does not bar both the president and much of the federal government from exercising their own lawful authorities to withhold funding without the prior approval of the district court, meaning, again, they can disperse the monies that they were allocated within the law, within the confines of the law, and that the government does not have to seek preclearance from the courts on terminating funding as long as they have the authority to do it, as governed by the applicable statutory, regulatory, or grant terms. So essentially, the court is confirming what the Trump administration has maintained and what common sense can project, which is that within the confines of regulatory and normal authority, of course, you can do what you want with your own money, and you don't need a court's approval to do so.
So obviously that's one of many lawsuits that was filed against Trump's administration. So that's a loss for the Democratic Party. And we're still waiting to hear about some of the others, these executive orders as it pertains to shutting down certain agencies, reorganizing those agencies, laying off federal employees, requiring them to come back to work, and the buyout, and all that's still up in the air. However, it's not a good look for the Democrats. So while all this is happening, there was a committee hearing in regards to DOGE, and this involved, on both sides of the aisle, individuals who are part of the actual DOGE committee. And so, of course, it went off the rails, and let's start with this guy, Congressman from California, when he opened his statement by talking about Elon Musk in this way.
Now, I find it ironic, of course, that our chairwoman, Congresswoman Green, is in charge of running this committee. Now, in the last Congress, Chairwoman Green literally showed a dick pic in our oversight congressional hearing, so I thought I'd bring one as well. Now, this, of course, we know is President Elon Musk. He's also the world's richest man. He was the biggest political donor in the last election. He has billions of dollars in conflicts of interest, and we know that he is leading a power grab, also abided by and encouraged by Donald Trump and, of course, the chairwoman, Congresswoman Green.
And this is one of our elected lawmakers. So it just shows how immature and how they have zero credibility. They provide no substance to this debate whatsoever, because they choose to personally attack the people they don't like instead of actually speaking the language of what the American voters really want to hear. It's a huge mistake, and they're continuing to make it. This is how he responded to a CNN reporter after this hearing.
I want to hear why, but do you think that calling Elon Musk a dick is effective messaging for confronting what is a potentially irreversible transformation of the U.S. government?
Well, he is a dick. And I think he's also harming the American public in an enormous way. And what I think is really important, and what the American public want, is for us to bring actual weapons to this bar fight. This is an actual fight.
Now, I think this is really reckless to speak this way. Bring in actual weapons. I'm sure most would agree that this is highly inappropriate language to use, especially in a time after 2 assassination attempts. Let me show you another example of how ridiculous they have become. Here is Congressman Stansbury, who starts to hyperventilate about DOGE's attempt to hack the Treasury payment system.
But because this is the Oversight Committee, let's do a little bit of oversight. For the last several weeks, I've been talking to Treasury and OMB officials to try to get to the bottom of why Elon Musk and his team are trying to hack the Treasury payment system. Because this is a completely nonpartisan system that literally just pays the bills of the federal government. So why are they so eager to hack this system? And I have to say that over the last several weeks, we have literally received thousands of calls in every single congressional office. In fact, we know that our friends across the aisle are also receiving these calls because this system pays the bills of the U.S. government. It pays our soldiers. It pays for the work that we do overseas. It pays your Social Security benefits. It pays your tax refunds. So why is Elon Musk and his hackers trying to access that system? And
now, while they are having an emotional breakdown and trying to debate this entire issue, I just want to provide some common sense, logical rebuttals to what she was saying. So, while they're melting down over Elon Musk and those doing an audit, if you remember, back in December, you didn't hear a peep from them when China hacked into our actual Treasury system.
A major breach at the Treasury Department. Officials saying a China-sponsored hacker gained access to Treasury workstations and documents earlier this month. Our Elizabeth Schulze is in Washington with the latest. Elizabeth, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Well, and the Treasury Department is calling this a major breach of its systems by China state-sponsored hackers. In a new letter to Congress, the department says it learned earlier this month that hackers were able to infiltrate a third-party software provider, remotely log into Treasury employees' workstations, and gain access to unclassified documents. The Treasury says it's no longer using that software provider, and it's now working with the FBI to determine the extent of this breach. Just last week, though, the Biden administration sounded the alarm about the threat from Chinese hackers targeting critical U.S. infrastructure.
Chinese state-sponsored hackers breached the department's computer security guardrails by compromising third-party cybersecurity service provider. So that's a key piece of information the left always wants to leave out. And what they're also trying to do now is say that everything Elon Musk and President Trump is saying is a lie, because they have yet to provide any evidence that there has been fraud.
I'm honest with the extraordinary claims of government fraud by the president and similar claims of maximal transparency by Elon Musk, but little evidence of either to back it up. In fact, strong evidence to the contrary from Musk's contention that he and his DOGE team are doing what they do in a way that, quote, maximally transparent. He said that in the Oval Office wearing a ball cap and T-shirt with one of his kids nearby. He and the president, who yielded the stage to him for minutes at a time, both speaking at length with reporters. The president, who's now facing a string of court cases surrounding his and Musk's actions, addressed concerns that he would defy court orders, saying he, quote, always abides by the courts.
Let me get this straight. The left-wing media and Democrats claim there's no evidence of fraud, waste, and abuse. That's what he's pushing at this point. Secondly, that President Trump was going to defy the orders from the judge. Remember, they were pushing that all last week. And now they come out and say, no, we'll just appeal it. They have nothing to say. You cannot hate the media enough. I mean, they're just sick in the mind, and I don't even think we can help it. Now, here is former Hampshire Governor Sununu, who is on that same panel, and he makes Anderson Cooper snap because he gives him the brutal truth.
Some of the details that have come out, like the $59 million spent on luxury hotels, it's actually not.
You're talking about the FEMA money that was abused for migrants? That was FEMA money for migrants? That's okay now?
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. Don't put words in my mouth.
So would you stop that? Would you stop that process?
Don't be a dick. The portrayal. What I'm saying is the portrayal by him is just not factually accurate.
It seems like that's the Democrat word of the day, right? Of course, Anderson Cooper has no answer in regard to the $59 million for migrants, because remember, they said it wasn't happening. All right? They claimed FEMA wouldn't do anything like that. They never diverted funds, and obviously that's been proven to be a lie at this point. So that's number one. Secondly, with 25 days in, the amount of money that they are saving, you'd think there'd be some level of common ground. Hey, you know what is good that they're looking at? Ways to save the taxpayer money. Like, I'll criticize this, but we'll also acknowledge that. They can't even do that.
And I'll just add, I give him credit for this. He said, look, we're going to make mistakes. He said, we're not going to bat 1,000 here. We're going to make mistakes, and we should be held accountable to those mistakes. But the fraud and waste and corruption is so deep and so rampant, it's going to take time. He's not going through a ledger on a $1 million business. He's going through trillions of trillions of dollars here.
But if it's going to take a long time, say it's going to take a long time. Don't say we've already found this many billion dollars and then not prove it.
Would you rather wait him for 18 months and say, oh, and by the way, we didn't talk to you, we didn't tell you anything we were doing, but here's our final result? He's giving us a day-by-day analysis of what's happening. I don't know how much more transparent you can be.
Yeah, I mean, former Governor Sununu makes a good point. How much more transparent could they be? Like, do you want them to take a camera inside, show the Treasury payment system? Like, you want the entire world to see that? I'm not too sure, right? That's number one. Secondary, they need time to obviously put this report together. Right now, all they're doing is investigating. They're reviewing, notating, they're advising, but sooner or later there will be an official report with the supporting documentation. You would think at a minimum, politically, they would get behind that. But no. They have Elon derangement syndrome, and it's going to kill him. Now, here's an example of that derangement syndrome. Because even though Elon Musk in the Oval Office in front of the entire world said, you know what, we will get some things wrong, and you guys are more than welcome to correct us. I think that's a pretty admirable statement. I'm sure you'd agree, but look at Jasmine Crockett's reaction.
If you were trying to conduct audits and figure out where the waste, fraud, and abuse is, I don't know why you would go to some tech guy. In fact, it was only techies that were sitting there at inauguration. We didn't have auditors. I would welcome auditors to come in and do forensic audits. In fact, he sat there in the Oval Office yesterday and he admitted that he was lying and he was using his propaganda machine to do it when he said that we sent millions of dollars to Gaza for condoms. That was a lie. So let me tell you something.
The gentlelady's time has expired.
It's time for
the
us
gentlelady's
to do our
time has
jobs
expired.
and rein in this rogue actor known
The
as
gentlelady's
Elon
time
Musk.
has expired. I now recognize the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Burleson.
I can't say I'm shocked about how she feels about Elon Musk. Of course, hindsight in 2020, yeah, I'd let forensic auditors come in and look at everything. Yeah, sure you would. Okay, we're not going to buy that whatsoever. Now, here is Scott Jennings talking about transparency, that Elon Musk has been transparent, and the media has totally taken the bait on this entire narrative. Like, no, they're not transparent. Again, do we need to remind them that what happened over the last 4 years with Joe Biden in regards to transparency? I don't think so. But here's what Scott Jennings had to say.
Elon Musk, who doesn't need to do this, has, he could be doing anything else. He's got companies. He's the richest guy in the world.
Don't need to do this. It's not like
has decided to give his own time to a government of a country that he loves, that has given him all this opportunity. I take him at his word that he wants to be transparent, that he invites transparency. Obviously, everybody in the English-speaking world media is looking into him every single day. I would have no fear if I were him about Congress
hasn't been
asking
questions and looking into it. I think they are.
The definition of it is he's not been on the front end of this so far. He's not been transparent. I mean, there may be.
They are making routine announcements about the things they are finding, and they are inviting questions about the things they are finding every single day.
But by definition, he's not being transparent. They're not providing data for the things that they say they have found evidence of. They just aren't.
The White House has provided.
You can make announcements, and he also did admit that he actually.
So you just don't believe it. I mean, they are providing information. You just choose not to believe that it's true.
Well, she absolutely doesn't believe it. It wouldn't matter if they did provide documentation because their bias is so strong. They can't tell the actual difference between what is real and fake in their mind. DOGE have already created an X account that shows everything they're doing. Again, now one thing that he did highlight is that Congress eventually has to catch up here. 3 branches of government. They always seem to forget that. Right now, the executive branch is doing exactly what it is elected to do. Sooner or later, the judicial branch will need to catch up. That's just the way it works. But they're in so much shock by how fast it's going that they're just overreacting on every little thing.
I don't think anyone should just believe that it's true. Do you think that people have taken kickbacks of tens of millions of dollars from USAID?
Here's what I think.
Do you believe that?
I think every year.
No, but don't accuse me of just like.
I'm just asking you. Do you believe that there is any level of fraud, waste, fraud, and abuse in the government?
No. That's not what you're asking me, and I'm going to ask the question. Don't accuse me of just like.
And so, if you believe that, do you believe that it's possible that they are finding and producing information about it? Of course,
that wasn't my question. My question was, by definition, they're not being transparent. They can continue to be successful.
What do you want them to do?
Provide data
if they're provide data that they have found people, everyone would want to know if someone has received kickbacks to the tune of tens of millions of dollars.
I don't disagree with you. I love the idea of data. I love the announcements. I love them putting out regular reports of what they're doing.
They have not.
And I love the idea of Congress also bringing them up to report to Congress on what they're finding, because ultimately Congress needs to be engaged in this as well. I have no problem with that, and I don't think they do either, and that's what I heard in his press conference yesterday.
Now, we keep hearing this, that there's no proof. There's no proof. On the DOGE X account, they have already provided screenshots of some of the systems they've had access to, showing what they've found. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt gave a press conference this week knowing that she would get this question. And she came prepared.
I think it's a real fallacy that there's this alleged lack of transparency when it comes to DOGE. President Trump and Elon Musk have been incredibly transparent on what DOGE is doing. There is an X account with the DOGE handle. They are tweeting out what they are doing on a daily basis. They have a website where they are posting the receipts of the contracts that they are reviewing and the payments that they have stopped from going out the door. The secretaries of our departments have stopped from going out the door. And I would also say that before it was Elon Musk making our government efficient and accountable, it was some unnamed bureaucrat that none of you knew. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. He's also now one of the most highly scrutinized men in the world alongside President Trump because of what he's doing and the access that he is allowing. So there's great transparency. As for the actual receipts, we are happy to provide them, and I actually brought some today because all of you know I love to bring the receipts. We have contracts upon contracts that we can send and provide this information to you. Let me be very clear. We are not trying to hide anything. We have been incredibly transparent, and we will continue to be. These are screenshots of contracts that DOGE found across our government. This is a DEI contract, $36,000 for U.S. citizenship and immigration services. That is against the president's policies and his America First agenda. This is a $3.4 million contract, a Council for Inclusive Innovation at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, Department of Commerce, another DEI contract that DOGE identified. I can continue to go through these. Oh, I love this one, $57,000 for climate change in Sri Lanka. What is this doing to continue the interests of the American people? Absolutely nothing. These are the line items across the federal government that DOGE is identifying daily. They're moving very fast. There's a lot of paper that we can show you, but we're happy to do it. This administration has been more than transparent about what DOGE is doing. And here's one of their tweets that they posted about the mine. I believe this is in Pennsylvania, where the federal employee retirement system is being processed. Did anybody know this was even happening in our country before Elon Musk talked about it in the Oval Office yesterday? A lot of Americans didn't. So we are providing transparency and accessibility on a daily basis when it comes to DOGE. And I also have a DOGE daily report, if anybody would like it, on all of the things that they are identifying and finding. We're happy to provide this information to you. We're talking about it every single day.
So again, I'm not too sure they've actually taken the time to go to the DOGE profile and actually look. But that's supposed to be the news. The other observation that you have to make here is that has any Democrat actually come out and defended any of the things that they found? It seems interesting that they're not doing that. Now, the media isn't the only one demonizing Elon Musk. The Democratic Party has been as well. But when you have someone like Governor Westmore who comes out and calls out the party and how they're so out of touch, you know they have problems. Take a look at this.
Rising star in the party, Maryland Governor Westmore, didn't mince words when it comes to the Democrats' biggest problem. Part of the reason some Democrats have struggled with messaging is because voters don't believe them. Strong messaging comes from having a core grasp of and a strong belief in what it is you're trying to do. Former Congressman Dean Phillips with us. Good to see you, sir, as always. I think the problem, yes, is some don't believe, but more importantly, and this just came across, in the past 7 days, MSNBC and CNN, extensions, I think, of Democratic talking points, have said that there is a threat, that we are in a constitutional crisis 200 times. When everything's a crisis, when everything's a hill to die on, when democracy's under the threat, I don't think anybody believes it anymore.
And I have to agree, Leland. And by the way, what this really is, most Americans can no longer relate, and the Democratic Party has seemed to abandon the overwhelming majority of Americans about what really matters. And I'm afraid that, as I've taken just the last 6 weeks as a former member of Congress, I got to tell you, Leland, I'm looking at this from the lens of a TV screen rather than being in the arena in Washington. And man, do I understand why people are so dismayed and disgusted. Yeah. And there's a dearth of leadership. I think Governor Moore was spot on. And until Democrats stop getting in front of microphones, spewing, and get out into America, especially rural America, and start listening, there is no future.
But here's the thing, Dean Phillips. We'd love for them to continue to talk and not listen. Just keep doing that. They'll dig an even deeper hole for themselves while continuing to give rise to the Republican Party, ultimately helping Trump to keep the momentum going. Sooner or later, they'll have to switch the direction they've been going in and start working with the president rather than against him. At this rate, they might not ever be elected into power again. If you got value from this video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Leave a comment in the section below if you believe that Elon Musk and President Trump and DOGE in general have been transparent with what they've been doing. Or do you believe that they are withholding information? Do you want to see more supporting documentation or screenshots or video? Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.